Hey, this is Patter, and Nico and I were just having one of the more fascinating conversations for me that we've had in a while. And I wanted to make this video for you because I think that one of the most important topics with the Cosmic Tower project is, what if I don't feel anything? And I was getting like an 11-year look at my life on this topic, and we were getting really deep. And so here we are. We're going to record it and we're going to share it with you guys. So let me just lay a little baseline here for something that I've experienced. So in 2013, 2012, actually, I was determined to cause the wellness enterprise into existence. I didn't know what the shape was going to be. And the motivating factor in my life was I wanted to provide a solution to the world for the plastic water bottles that people were using, the single serve containers. So my motivation came from my recycling background and a focus on the external world, but the passion that I felt for it was so great that it actually caused me to transition out of an 18-year career as a financial advisor, which I was really good at and really enjoyed for quite a number of years, not so much at the end. But the passion just kept pulling me forth. And I thought when the Wellness Enterprise was starting that what we were going to do is provide a solution for the plastic bottle industry and actually really go to work with ending that industry. And in reality, Creator had a much deeper take for me, which is that when I learned the story that was powerful enough to have people stop using single serve plastic bottles, it was going to be about health and energy. And that was going to be where I expressed myself for decades into the future. So I'm a decade into that, and I'm anticipating more and more of that as long as I'm alive. So the transition from moving from a full external world focus to the internal energetics was very similar to what we're experiencing now with the Cosmic Tower project, where people get a Cosmic Tower like I did at the beginning, right? Remember, Nico, you loaned me your tower. That was the first one. And you're like, what do you think, Pattern? I was like, I don't feel anything, right? Remember back to that
I
uh,
do.
2 years ago? Um, I'll just finish wrapping the story unless you want to put any context on that time period and what you remember from that time period observing me and what you can say was going on. You know, you get to kind of be the play-by-play analyst and say what was going on with me. And so we teach people, we show people through my vulnerability and your insights, like what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look back then, you were, as you were saying, more outwardly focused and much more mental, and we were working on other things together. And I had to keep bringing it back to how does that feel in your body? What is the feeling that that brings up? Like, well, I got this and this and this. I was like, yeah, but how does it make you feel? Right? Because in the feeling, that's where the real depth is. And there's also so much more information there, but that's also right. We make so many of our decisions through feeling. If you would just strip feeling from life right now and have it purely be a mental process, I mean that wouldn't be life, right? Feeling is such an important part of it. So I think the first, you know, part that we had to get back to for you was back in the body and not living from up here, right?
That's so amazing because we're talking 2 years ago. So my book on structured water was released 4 years ago, right? So the journey from 2012 to 2020, I would have told you how deep I was in feeling. And here we are, summer of 2024. We've been spending time together physically recently, and it's been the best lesson we've ever had on helping me feel feeling, right? The biggest steps I've ever taken at coming out of my mind and into my body have just been now. So 4 years after I wrote the book, which made me expert or whatever, experienced in some way, I had some life wisdom to publish for people to help them on the journey for structured water, and I'm just now experiencing the deepest lessons on feelings. So back to 2013, I am a salesman throughout my life, but I have a lot of integrity. And I don't want to sell something to people if it doesn't make their life better. Like it's super important to me that people's lives get better. So when I started selling structured water, I was in the place of not being able to feel it. And so what I did was I could feel the passion, like creator put a dream inside of me where I was like, I have to go in this direction. I have to, there's no choices. Like the rest of my life closed on me. And so it was the only open door was I had to go in this direction, but I didn't feel it. So what I did was the first structured water devices that I sold them at cost or just a little bit above cost, and I gave people unlimited guarantees, and I asked them to tell me their experience. And one of the things that I have noticed still to this day is that I have a cosmic towers right here. There's a 35 right here, and I can sit here and not feel it. But as soon as I just touched it and speak about it with you in communion, when we share an awareness of it, now I can't stop feeling it, right? And so that's part of how I learn and have learned. And so I've gone all the way to have like this global structured water company where people turn to me to answer questions all the time about structured water. And the way I got most of my information was by listening to what other people said about it. In fact, you were one of them, back in 2015, 16, you were one of the people that, because of your sensitivity, you would come in and tell me what you were experiencing with the product. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. This is how it works for Nico. And I tell other people the stories. So that's the backdrop for, maybe you can explain a little bit about the way we work. Like that's what prompted me to make this recording is you were talking on that topic about the way we work. And can you go back to what you were sharing and let's share that wisdom with everybody now instead of just privately with me.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you bring up that, yeah, we can learn from other people's experiences and what they feel, because I think in order to feel the cosmic tower, the first thing we got to do is to become aware of what we feel, right? I think so many people are like, oh, I want to feel this tower, but they're not very able to feel what's within their own body. So that is like the first step, right? You can take like your hand and you can feel your own energy field, or you can play with energy. And then people say, oh, I'm not feeling anything. Well, just imagine that there is an energy there, right? And then just start tuning into it and start feeling it. And a lot of people then have this thing, oh, I'm just imagining this now. No, it's actually a first step that you use, your own imagination of that there is a field there, because it's only when you start really putting your awareness towards where that energy is that you can start recording the sensations and that you can start feeling it, right? Many of us, we're not born to where we don't feel, right? All of us, I mean, we feel strongly, but then what happens is as we grow up and we get more programmed to only live from here and to be these mental creatures, it's not like our body doesn't have any feelings. It's simply that our awareness is not there. So when we bring our awareness back to where we know there are feelings, right? I have clients sometimes that say, I really don't feel anything, and I need to spend like a half hour just bringing them back in their body, right? And what does that feel like, right? And then often what happens is like, because they're so mental, oh, that's just my imagination. Well, no, just go with that imagination and then relax into it. And what you will notice is that over time, you really start to feel many nuances of what is there. So I would tell people that have a hard time like feeling the cosmic tower. That doesn't mean that it doesn't work or that there's no energy coming off of it. What that means is that we have to get more in tune with feeling the energies. Get a plant, right? Feel its aura, feel its energy field, right? And just in the beginning, if it takes your imagination to get the process started, that there's an energy bubble around it, do that and sense it. And then from there, the more you relax and the more you go into it, that's when you start to get much more in tune with it. Because the truth of the matter is, like, wherever we put our awareness, our energy flows, and that's what we're going to perceive most of. So if that's just here and in the head, everything else just gets pushed into the background. Now, when we make a conscious choice to shift that and really start feeling what goes on in the body, just taking your hand and feeling the subtle energy around it, then we start developing those skills. And it's purely a matter of awareness and bringing it back to those feelings.
I think there's an interesting paradox here where the people who most want to feel it have a confidence in self that's false. I can certainly speak for myself, where it's like we're being lived rather than living from our conscious choices, and we don't even know it. And so we're so sure that our view of the world, it's so unintentional, it's so innocent. We're so sure that our view of the world is the way it is, and we don't yet know that we're not feeling. And so I want to give you a chance to comment on that, but I want to weave one more piece from our recent lesson in, which is that there's this idea of thinking nice thoughts. And
Mm.
I have been confusing for the last couple of years, thinking really nicely about the world, about everybody else. Like for me, it has occurred like, well, I'm not such a selfish prick anymore. Like I'm thinking about other people. And I've confused that to mean that I was feeling from my heart. And you've coached me so many times, and honestly, in the Lavanya, monthly emotional intelligence calls that you do, you coach all of us to that. But then I have personal one-on-ones with you and get that experience too. And you've really been coaching me to feel. And it's an entirely different energy field of softness and perception and warmth and like waves coming over me. So when you're in it and you don't know you're in it, that's when you're most sure that you're not in it. And you tell people, well, I feel my feelings. Like, what are you talking about being all in your head? But now that I have a felt flavor of both, I'm like, oh, I'm in my head again. Oh, I mean, it's easy to see. The head is kind of fast, it's sharp, it's right. It knows, and the heart is, I don't really have anything to say. If you ask me about my experience, I would tell you this feels a lot, but gosh, I don't really want to talk a lot. Yeah, so I don't know if you have much to say about that, but I think it's fascinating paradox.
Yeah, whenever, you cannot force yourself into feeling, right? It's a relaxation into it. And, people might feel something, but then what does immediately happen? The mind comes in and says, what does that mean? Is it this? Is it that? Oh, it shouldn't be that. I got to change it to this, right? Truly feeling is, and this is normal, this is human. But if you truly want to feel, it's just about coming back to that feeling and not labeling it, not saying, what does this mean? Because anytime the mind gets engaged, we're out of that feeling mode. So it's a relaxation deeper and deeper into that feeling without like having to put any labels on it. And you hear a lot that people say, oh, I'm such a loving person, or I only think loving thoughts, right? That to me is not love. That means you're not in a state of pure love, because pure love just is with what is present in that moment. And that is like a big distinction that I've seen. People are like, well, but I'm super loving and I only think positive thoughts, and how can this person that, or how do I still have this in my life? While the state of pure love is the state of awareness, to just be with what is, and not having your mind come in and say, we need to change this, even if it's for the positive. Even if we're like, oh, we got to help this person and make them realize this or change this, that is not love. That is the ego, but through its perception, making a judgment that where that person is at that time is not right. And we need to change that to really adhere to some mental construct. While for me, like being in this state of love and connection, it's just like fully being with what is and really feeling the depth of it. Because oftentimes we listen to people, but we're not, because in our mind we are running, oh, how can I convince this person of that, or this person should do this or that, how can I make them do that? That is not love, right? So love is really being in the state of feeling everything what is and fully receiving a person, not only their words but all the feelings that come up in the body. Hey, and we're all human. I have judgments that come up too, or things, and just letting those go and just coming back to the feeling and being with that feeling. And that doesn't mean that nothing is said or nothing is done. Because when there really is something and it comes from this pure, from a much deeper space, then it has that energy of love with it. And that has a very, very different effect. And from my point of view, the more you can just come into this like pure love, not wanting to change anything or anyone, like it's the most powerful thing that you can do in the world. And as you say, we become more quiet. There is less this need to change things or people. There is just being with what is. And then when something does arise, you'll notice it has a very different purity and a very different effect on people, even though sometimes it is not a quote unquote like positive thing that as the mind would judge, but it might be just what is needed in that moment, right?
Yeah, it's really beautiful. For those of you who have never considered it, Nico is available as a coach. He can be hired one-on-one, and I mean, he's been a profound mentor in my life since before we actually even started working together. Like, he's been coming from this type of wisdom. And, I gotta say, as I have come to grips with this conversation recently, and you've really helped me see through it, there was a moment of embarrassment, at like how sure I've been about my nice thoughts, my kind thinking about wanting to change everybody. Like, you know, it was so innocent and it was so well intended. And I thought I was feeling and being loving. And I was being nice, I was being kind, which is better than where I was coming from before then, you know?
Mhm.
So I'm delighted to share that moment of embarrassment and to share the opportunity to like take ground on this. And so if you're called to hire Nico, you can contact the Wellness Enterprise and we'll get you in touch with him. And also you can become a Lavanya member and he teaches there monthly. Um, but most important, for this video is opening up the space for people who get a tower, because I think getting a tower is like if you spend, four-figure or five-figure money on bringing a tower into your space, there's something within you that is calling for that. And it's an amazing opportunity. And so if you get it and you're not feeling, you're exactly the ones who need it the most. And so that's why we aim to make videos that fill in around the sides to try to speak to you in different ways. And basically we're just here for you on this journey. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and I think even if the tower prompts you to like, why don't I feel this? And that actually puts this on this exploration of like wanting to become more aware of your own feelings, of subtle energies, right? That is a gift in and of itself. Because from my experience, no true transformation happens up here, right? Here is where most issues are created. It's not in the mind that is going to resolve them, but it's really when we get in tune with feeling again, it's only then that we can really make transformations and come closer to the source of who we are. Because I always teach people about the conscious and the unconscious mind, right? It's the unconscious mind, the subconscious mind that really determines how your life turns out and what your experiences are going to be. And it doesn't communicate through thoughts. It communicates through feelings, right? People might say affirmations of what they want and do it, with a lot of energy. But if there's a little feeling in your body at that moment that you say, like, yeah, you're not worthy of that, or you're not really that way, you're not getting anywhere. You're only creating more friction within your system. It's really in the feelings that's the communication from the subconscious mind, and that's where you feel the truth. Right.
So beautiful. Hey, I'm going to put a link underneath this video on YouTube. You guys can look in the metadata, it's called, that box underneath the video. We're going to put a link to a video with Theo Lucier, and he talks about the differences between the 35 and 75 and what he saw in San Diego with his brother, who is very much being lived and didn't know that the cosmic tower was influencing him. And yet he's had changes that things have been the same for 25 years in his life, and they're different now, and the brother still doesn't know. And so that might help you all to get a little bit more perspective. Nico, any closing thoughts?
No, just explore it and just start with feeling your own energy and learn to just feel subtle energies of plans of yours. It all starts with yourself, right? Because you are the instrument. So if you have a hard time feeling your own energies and your own field, it's going to become difficult to feel that of the tower. So start with that. And the moment you put your awareness there and you start focusing, you will feel it. It's just how it works, right? But it all starts with you. You are the instrument that can feel the tower. You are the awareness. So put your awareness on feeling your own energy field first.
Well, Nico, thank you for being my mentor, and community, thank you for being my brothers and sisters. Like, as you get your towers and you go through not feeling them the way I have gone through not feeling them, and then you go through some feeling, and then you go through more feeling, that's when we get to be brothers and sisters and supporting each other. Because when I share the tower with people and we bring consciousness to it, I do feel it. And I want to share that with you. So just do your best, and we'll stay in the dialogue together. Thanks for being part of our community.